We have some breaking news from the NHL tonight. It's been confirmed that Blues forward Vladimir Tarasenko wants out of St. Louis and has officially requested a trade. How did this happen? Where could he go? We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. We have some breaking news tonight from Athletic writer Jeremy Rutherford, who covers the St. Louis Blues. He's dropped a pretty significant article tonight indicating that Vladimir Tarasenko indeed wants out of St. Louis and has officially requested a trade. Now, Tarasenko's name has been coming up in trade rumors for the past 3 to 4 weeks, really ever since their season came to an end. He's been mentioned numerous times by various NHL insiders, but now we seem to have a clearer picture as to why. Doug Armstrong has been quietly shopping him around the NHL trying to find a deal, and it's no wonder his name is getting so much play in the rumor mill. So how did this come to be? Where is he possibly going to go? What kind of return could they get? That's what we're going to talk about here, so certainly stay tuned, watch all the way to the end to find out all the important details. Now, essentially, there's a variety of reasons that led to Tarasenko wanting out of St. Louis. The biggest reason, though, is how they've handled his health and his shoulder surgeries. It's been well documented that Tarasenko has had 3 shoulder surgeries. However, the first 2 were done by Blues doctors, and he's not happy with how things were handled. The 3rd surgery was done by an outside surgeon that he found on his own, and they had encountered some more ligament damage and things that were not properly diagnosed and cleaned up properly by Blues doctors. So apparently, according to Rutherford, there is a major trust issue between Tarasenko and the organization because of how the shoulder injuries have been handled here over the past few seasons. I mean, we've seen him go in and out of the lineup because he keeps having to get things cleaned up and fixed here, and he hasn't really played a lot in the past couple of years. So I guess I can kind of understand in a way. It's a similar scenario to Jack Eichel in Buffalo. Obviously, he's very unhappy with how they've handled his health, and it's a pretty important thing. So when that kind of disconnect happens between the team and the player, then obviously, a divorce is usually what ends up taking place. Now, there's also a few other issues here at hand. He's also been unhappy with how he's been used when he has played in the lineup here recently, like in this past season. I know, for example, one of the items in Rutherford's article references the fact that he was moved to the net front presence on the power play. He's also unhappy about that. And there's also, going back to reports, when the Blues named Ryan O'Reilly captain, there was reports out of Russia that he was very upset about that, given how much longer he had been with the team and been there, played a big role for a long time. It was very upset that he was overlooked for the captaincy. Now, we never really heard from Tarasenko himself on those allegations or if those reports were true. He never really commented on it. And as Rutherford mentioned in his article, essentially he wasn't available to local media to be asked about it because of the injury. So by the time he was available, it had been so long that it was kind of a moot point, and it has never really been addressed, or he's never been asked to comment on it publicly. And you know what? Even if he was, I guarantee he probably wouldn't have said much. He probably would have been a good teammate and done the right things. But obviously, you add all that up together, and it's kind of at a point now where Tarasenko feels it's best if he moves on and continues his career elsewhere. So it's already, like I said, been known here that this has been taking place at least a few weeks ago. I don't know exactly when the request was made, but he said that Armstrong's been quietly shopping him for a while now. He talked to a few other GMs who he spoke to off the record anonymously, who confirmed that, that the conversations are being taking place. They also confirmed that they themselves did not have interest in trading for Tarasenko. So there is a lot of, questions or concerns about how much interest there will be to acquire a player of this magnitude as well. I mean, he's a former 30 to 40 goal guy. Can he get back to that? I mean, some feel he can if he can stay healthy. And if this last surgery kind of got things corrected and cleaned up the way they should have with the first 2, then maybe he's finally going to be able to get there. But obviously, will a team take a chance? I don't know. I mean, he's got 2 years left. He comes with a cap hit of $7.5 million. And to make things more complicated, his salary next year, the way the contract's structured, he actually makes $9.5 in actual cash next year. So for any owners that might be a little more cautious of actual cash flow, that could be a problem for them. Now, the final year, he only makes 5.5, so it does level out. But certainly we're not going to be expected to see any cap increases on the final 2 years of this contract. So it's probably going to have to be a scenario that if they can find a deal for him, it's likely going to have to be money in, money out for pretty much any other acquiring team. Now, of course, if they can find a way to move Tarasenko, who does hold a full no trade clause, he'll obviously have to sign off on any deal, and it's believed he's given a list of teams to St. Louis. Now, this has been previously reported that he had done this, and I myself had talked about the fact that I did not really agree with the teams on the list. I said that, it's possible that this has happened, but the teams that were being reported, to me, just didn't make a lot of sense. But essentially, Rutherford confirms that there's no real exact number known about how many teams or which teams they are. However, he feels that Tarasenko is going to have to be fairly flexible if he really wants a move to take place. If he limits the Blues too much, then the deal is a lot less likely to take place here. So obviously, where could he go? I mean, he mentions a few possible ideas, but of course, they're just that. They're just ideas based on what teams are looking for that type of player. Like, he does reference the New York Islanders. Obviously, they're looking for a scoring winger for Matthew Barzal. Would he be a good fit there? Maybe. I think, like any team, these shoulder surgeries are going to be a concern for them, but it could be a possibility. I don't know that it happens, but I can understand why they might at least kick tires on it and consider it. But again, the Islanders are really tight against the cap too. If they're going to take on $7.5 million in AAV, they're going to have a similar number or more go out to offset the financial obligation there. So, what would the Islanders be able to send to the Blues to make things offset? I'm not really sure. Now, when it comes to St. Louis, though, the article referenced the fact that they don't necessarily need a right winger back. They could go with Kyrou and Perron, their top two right wingers, so they could get a different positional player in return. Maybe they get another blue liner, maybe they get another center or left winger. Like, it doesn't have to be somebody who plays the exact same position. I mean, he does talk about the fact as well that the Blues do have interest in Calgary forward and son of Keith Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuk. But again, he references the fact that he doesn't even know if he'd be available, and imagines it would take a lot more than Tarasenko to pry him out of Calgary. Now, he figures the only way the Blues would have a real shot at getting Matthew Tkachuk would be next year when his contract expires and he becomes an RFA. If he really wants to be traded, he could try to force their hand, but we really don't know that he would want to do that at this point. I mean, clearly it would be a homecoming for him to go to St. Louis, but you know what? I think a lot of those rumors that we heard before are just that, and they're just really not much to them. I can understand why there'd be interest, but would Tarasenko even waive to go to Calgary? I have my doubts that he would. So as far as what exactly the return could be, it really depends on where he ends up going. But needless to say, the Blues would love to come out of this with some cap savings. Obviously, bringing back a guy like Jaden Schwartz would be important, and they may not be able to afford to do that. But if they can escape this with a lower cap hit, then obviously that might help them retain him, which would be good for them. But it may not be able to be possible. Most teams that would make a consideration here would probably have enough cap issues that they'd have enough money going out as well. Like, you'd have to look to the Capitals maybe, with a guy like Kuznetsov maybe going the other way. That's comparable money. That could possibly work. He could play with his buddy Ovechkin. He mentions the New York Rangers since he's really good friends with Artemi Panarin. But again, do they have that kind of capacity? I'm not really sure that they do. I mean, I'm not sure what they would move out. They'd probably have to move a guy like a Kreider or a Zibanejad or another, like a big ticket item. And are they going to want to do that for Tarasenko? I'm not entirely convinced that that's something they would want to do either. So, I mean, there even been mentioned about maybe LA, because LA is looking for another top six forward. Obviously, I'm not sure what they would offer up going the other way, but certainly it's hard to say where Tarasenko goes at this point. But all we know now is that the request has been made. He wants out. He wants a new start somewhere else, and Armstrong and the Blues are trying their best to make that happen. So you can add another superstar player to the list of guys we've been talking about as trade rumor candidates this offseason that is very, very likely to get traded, since it's something he's trying to make happen himself. Now, if it doesn't happen ahead of expansion, it could happen after. It is possible that the Blues could still have him on their protected list for the expansion draft and make a trade shortly thereafter if they can't get something worked out ahead of time. I mean, there's only less than 2 weeks away now from expansion time, And depending on, this could be a more complicated deal to come together. It might take longer than that. But then again, you just never know sometimes. All it takes is one phone call in the NHL to get trade talks really heated up, and sometimes things can happen a lot faster than we think. So let me know where you think is a good landing spot for Vladimir Tarasenko. What kind of return are the Blues looking at? And will he end up getting his wish and be traded out of St. Louis ahead of next season? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all latest news and rumors in all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.